Welcome to my channel. I woke up to a world that felt utterly alien. The morning sunlight streamed through my window, warm and comforting, and yet everything around me seemed wrong. My sheets felt lighter, softer, clinging to my body differently than usual. For a second, I thought I was still dreaming. But then I caught sight of the mirror, and my stomach dropped like a stone. The reflection staring back at me wasn't mine. Smooth, delicate features, familiar yet impossible, looked back at me. My jaw was narrower, my cheekbones higher, my hair longer than I had ever seen it. My chest was different. My hands were smaller, more graceful, almost fragile. I stumbled toward the mirror, disbelief rooting me to the spot. My reflection blinked back, wide-eyed and almost as terrified as I felt. A voice escaped my lips, but it wasn't mine. What the hell? I whispered. The sound was higher, lighter, foreign. I pressed my hands against the glass, willing it to change back. Nothing. Then I heard it, a soft, giggling voice from the doorway. "Morning," my sister said, casually leaning against the frame, her arms crossed, a mischievous grin playing on her lips. "How does it feel?" I froze. You did this? You switched me with you?" I couldn't get the words out fast enough, panic clawing at my throat. Her grin widened. "I told you I was working on something special. You didn't believe me. I thought a little demonstration might help you understand me better." My heart pounded. My stomach twisted. My world had been turned upside down while I slept. Everything familiar, my routines, my sense of self, my identity, was gone. And she was smiling like she had pulled off some grand, cruel joke. I sank onto the edge of the bed, trembling. My thoughts raced. How could this be real? Some experimental serum? A spell? A technological miracle? None of it mattered. The reality was inescapable. My life had been hijacked, my body stolen. I felt panic, terror, and a strange, creeping curiosity. For hours, I examined my reflection. Every feature screamed my sister. The soft curve of my lips, the tilt of my eyebrows, the way my shoulders sloped. Everything was foreign yet precise. My hands shook as I touched my face, tracing contours that didn't belong to me. Every touch made my heart sink further. I tried to speak again. This isn't real. It's a dream. It has to be." My sister chuckled, tilting her head. "Not a dream. You're awake. And welcome to my world, for now." Hours passed, and disbelief slowly gave way to a raw, cold fear. I couldn't call anyone, not without revealing the truth. And who would believe me anyway? My friends, my parents, the school. Everyone would see me like this and think I was crazy. As the morning faded into afternoon, I attempted to navigate my new body. Walking felt strange. My center of gravity shifted, my movements felt exaggerated and foreign. Even sitting down was a challenge. Panic was an undercurrent in every action. My hands were smaller, lighter, delicate. Yet I felt clumsy in every motion. I stared at my phone. Could I text my sister? Beg her to switch us back? My fingers hovered over the keyboard, hesitant. The thought of her laughter made my stomach churn. She had orchestrated this meticulously, and now she held all the power. Hours turned into days, and reality settled like a stone in my chest. I was trapped. My identity stolen, my life hijacked. And my sister. She moved freely, as if nothing had happened. Sleep became impossible. Every night I stared at the ceiling, haunted by my reflection, wondering how this had happened, and more importantly, how I could survive in a body that wasn't mine. I tried to recall every conversation, every interaction that might have tipped me off, but nothing could have prepared me for this. As the shock settled into a gnawing tension, I realized the terrifying truth. I had to navigate a world that would now see me as her, experience life through her eyes, and learn to survive in a skin that wasn't mine. The first night, I cried quietly, alone, letting the grief for my old self pour out. But amidst the tears, a tiny spark of something else emerged, a strange curiosity. How did my sister feel every day in this body? Could I learn to adapt, even thrive in it? The thought terrified and thrilled me at the same time. By the next morning, I was no longer just shocked. I was determined. Determined to understand, to survive, to reclaim some semblance of control in a life that had been stolen. But little did I know, surviving this switch would test every limit of my fear, patience, and courage, and eventually lead me to a discovery about myself I never imagined. The next morning, I woke with a pit in my stomach that refused to go away. My body, her body, felt heavier, stranger, more delicate than I could ever remember mine being. Even breathing seemed different, the rise and fall of my chest unfamiliar. I forced myself to sit up, brushing long strands of hair out of my face, but each movement reminded me that I was trapped in someone else's life. Today, I had to leave the house, step into the world as her, and pretend that everything was normal. The walk to the bus stop was torturous. Each reflection in the windows of houses along the street made me flinch. Sometimes I caught glimpses of myself and nearly fell to my knees. My fingers twitched nervously in my pockets, unsure whether to brush my hair, straighten my posture, or hide in some invisible corner. Pedestrians glanced at me curiously, some with smiles, others with subtle amusement. I felt naked under their gaze. Each pair of eyes was an accusation, a reminder that this body wasn't mine. At school, the situation escalated into something unbearable. I walked through the front doors, trying to mimic my sister's stride, but it was hopeless. Every step felt exaggerated, awkward, impossible to control. Whispers erupted immediately. Students froze mid-laugh, glancing at me, then at each other. "Is that him?" someone muttered, and I could feel their eyes piercing me, dissecting me. I froze, trying to respond, trying to sound normal, but my voice, the soft, high, unfamiliar tone that came out, made my words sound like a whisper from someone else entirely. I'm still me," I stammered, but the words sounded hollow, absurd, and no one seemed convinced. My friends didn't know how to react. One of them, a boy I had known since childhood, tilted his head, eyes wide. You look different." "Really different," he said cautiously. His gaze lingered in confusion and fear, and for a moment, I realized he wasn't laughing. He was trying to understand what he saw. I wanted to scream. "I am me. This is still me." But the voice that emerged betrayed me, high-pitched, delicate, foreign. I felt every muscle in my body tense, my hands clenching at my sides, trembling uncontrollably. Walking down the hall, I could feel the weight of every eye on me. Whispers, laughter, and half-smiles followed me like shadows. Every movement I made, the sway of my hips, the tilt of my shoulders, the way my feet hit the floor, felt wrong. Even trying to sit still was a challenge. My legs felt awkward, my hands too delicate, my posture constantly betraying me. I imagined my sister watching, smiling smugly at my clumsy attempts to mimic her grace. The first class was hell. Sitting at my desk, I could feel every glance, every whispered comment, every judgmental stare. My handwriting had changed, small, neat, elegant, too precise to be mine. Even taking notes felt alien. I kept shifting in my seat, trying to adjust, but the unfamiliar weight of this body and the foreign sense of balance made it impossible. By lunch, I was on edge. The cafeteria buzzed with the usual noise, but every sound seemed louder, more invasive, more focused on me. I tried to pick a spot at a table, hoping to blend in, but everyone stared. Some whispered, others smirked, and one girl actually nudged her friend, pointing discreetly. I could feel my face burning. "Are you really him?" a classmate asked, curiosity overtaking caution. I wanted to vanish. It's complicated," I muttered, and my high, soft voice made it sound even more ridiculous. People laughed quietly, and I wanted to scream, to run, to disappear. My friends hovered uncertainly. They looked torn. Some wanted to reach out, others seemed afraid. I caught my best friend glancing at me nervously, his mouth opening to speak, then closing again. The embarrassment hit me like a tidal wave. I wanted someone to understand, to tell me that this wasn't real, that I would wake up soon. But deep down, I knew it wasn't going to happen. The afternoon brought more challenges. Teachers were polite but confused. One asked me to present a group assignment I had prepared. My voice shook, faltered, sounded nothing like me. Students snickered, exchanged glances. My face burned hotter than I thought possible. Sitting back down, I felt utterly exposed. Every glance, every smirk, every subtle movement in the room reminded me that this body wasn't mine. That everyone could see the difference. Even the small things became torture. Reaching for my water bottle, I realized my fingers didn't grasp it the way they used to. Walking down the hallway, I stumbled slightly, my balance off. A classmate nearly bumped into me, and I heard a snicker. It cut deeper than I expected. When school finally ended, I felt hollow. The walk home was equally humiliating. Neighbors waved, friends stared, strangers whispered. Each interaction reminded me of how little control I had over my new life. My sister's world wasn't just about her body, it was about attention, perception, judgment. And now, I had to live it every moment. Back home, she was waiting. Calm. Smiling. Pouring herself a cup of tea as if nothing had happened. "See? You're surviving," she said, almost casually. Or at least pretending to. I wanted to throw the cup across the room. This isn't funny." I shouted, but my voice betrayed me again. Soft, delicate, high-pitched. She only smiled wider. Retreating to my room, I sat on the edge of the bed, my mind spinning. Every glance at the mirror made me flinch. My body was hers, my reflection a perfect mimic of her face. I touched my cheeks, my lips, my shoulders. Every contour, every curve reminded me of her presence layered over mine. Panic twisted in my chest, and I realized that surviving this wasn't just about going through the day, it was about mastering every aspect of this body, every movement, every interaction. Even at night, sleep offered no solace. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, listening to the quiet house, imagining how my sister must be laughing quietly somewhere, free in my old body, while I wrestled with this borrowed life. I thought of school, of friends, of the ridicule I had endured and would endure. The fear gnawed at me relentlessly. And yet, amidst the terror, a strange curiosity began to bloom. Maybe if I learned to adapt, to mimic, to survive, I could reclaim some control. Maybe, somehow, I could find a way to thrive in a life that wasn't mine. But even as the thought flickered in my mind, a cold, unshakable dread settled over me. What if I never went back? What if this became permanent? The following days were a blur of whispers, judgmental glances, and exhausting attempts to navigate every social interaction without revealing the truth. I learned quickly that subtle gestures, small smiles, even breathing the right way could determine whether someone accepted me or questioned me. I practiced in the mirror for hours, each time hating the reflection, yet slowly learning to move with less awkwardness, less fear. Even at home, life was a battlefield. My sister moved freely, teasing me, leaving little notes around the house. "Don't forget to smile." One read, another, "Mirror time, don't be shy." Each one was a reminder of her dominance, of her complete control over my life. By the end of the week, exhaustion and humiliation had worn me down. I caught myself laughing at jokes I didn't understand, nodding along to conversations, pretending to be her while secretly trembling inside. Every glance in the mirror made my stomach twist, yet I could feel a small spark of resilience forming, a glimmer of determination to survive, no matter how foreign the world had become. After the first week of public humiliation and social torment, I retreated into the sanctuary of my room. My sister had left the house for errands, giving me the first real taste of privacy I'd had since the switch. Alone, I could finally breathe, or at least attempt to. My heart raced with anticipation and dread, a strange combination that both terrified and thrilled me. The room was filled with her belongings. Clothes meticulously organized, shelves of perfumes, an array of makeup laid out like a painter's palette, and shoes that ranged from sensible flats to sky-high heels. Each item seemed to pulse with her personality, reminding me painfully of the life I had been thrust into. I stared at it all, hesitant to touch, but curiosity won over fear. I picked up a dress first, a soft, silky number she often wore to casual gatherings. Running my hands over the fabric, I shivered. It smelled faintly of her perfume, a subtle floral note that made my chest tighten. I held it against myself in the mirror. The reflection was jarring, a perfect replica of her, yet unmistakably me inside, an unfamiliar consciousness trapped behind those delicate features. Despite my nerves, I slid into the dress. The fabric clung to my new curves, shaping my body in ways that felt both alien and intoxicating. I took a deep breath, feeling the strange thrill of wearing her identity physically. My hands rested lightly on my hips, and for the first time, I noticed the natural sway, the subtle rhythm that came with her body. Movement that had been clumsy in public felt different here, controlled, deliberate, intimate. Next came the makeup. I had never applied it before, or at least not seriously. Her brushes, eyeshadow palettes, and lipstick tubes were intimidating. I picked up a soft pink lipstick, hesitated, then applied it. My reflection stared back at me, lips transformed, face altered in subtle ways that made the eyes appear larger, more expressive. I experimented with blush, contouring, eyeliner, each brushstroke a revelation, each adjustment a small conquest of self-expression in a body I had once thought was alien. As I played, I realized something disturbing yet undeniable. I was enjoying this. The nervous thrill of experimentation, the delicate power of transforming my face, of shaping my presence. It was intoxicating. A warmth spread through me that I couldn't ignore, a curiosity that mingled with fear. I caught myself smiling at my reflection, tilting my head, adjusting the collar of the dress, testing gestures. It was addictive, this small taste of agency. My voice came next. Speaking in my normal tone felt impossible, awkward. The high, delicate pitch of my borrowed voice felt foreign, but I had to learn to control it. I practiced reading aloud, mimicking inflections, testing volume, experimenting with softness and emphasis. Each attempt was a challenge, each success a tiny victory. By the end of the hour, I could make my voice sound more natural, more like my sister, and it thrilled me in a way I hadn't expected. I tried walking around the room, testing posture, sway, gestures. I experimented with small movements, crossing my legs while sitting, tilting my head while speaking, the way my hands rested lightly on surfaces. Every gesture felt exaggerated at first, almost comical, but with repetition, I felt a subtle rhythm emerging. I was learning her world from the inside out. The more I experimented, the more I realized how much of identity is performance. My sister's presence wasn't just in her body, it was in how she moved, how she spoke, how she interacted with the world. And here I was, trapped in her skin, forced to embody her entirely. The thought was terrifying, yet strangely exhilarating. Hours passed. I lost track of time, caught in a private dance of discovery. I tried on shoes, teetering in heels, wobbling until my balance improved. I experimented with hairstyles, braiding, curling, twisting. Each style a new lens through which to view myself. Mirrors surrounded me, reflecting different versions of this borrowed identity, each more convincing, each more intoxicating. At one point, I stopped, breathing heavily, staring at the reflection. My cheeks were flushed from exertion, lips painted, hair perfect, dress clinging gracefully. For a moment, I forgot who I had been. I caught a glimpse of myself and realized, this could be me now. Not fully, perhaps, not without loss, but undeniably, tangibly me in this form. The thrill of this revelation was interrupted by a knock on the door. My heart leapt. "I'm home," my sister called casually. Panic surged. I hadn't finished, hadn't perfected anything. I hadn't returned to a state that could pass as normal. I dashed to the bed, yanking the dress over my head, wiping off makeup clumsily, tugging at my hair. But it was too late. She appeared in the doorway, arms crossed, smiling smugly. "Having fun?" she asked. Her tone was teasing, but there was a sharp edge that cut through me. I could only stare, caught mid-transformation, utterly exposed. I was just exploring, I stammered, voice still slightly high, still trembling. Her laugh was soft but victorious. "Exploring, huh? Good. You'll need all the practice you can get. Remember, this life. It's mine, but for now it's yours to figure out." The tension in the room was suffocating, but beneath it, a spark of something new flickered. I realized that despite the fear, despite the humiliation, I was learning. I was adapting. Each experiment, each small victory in private, gave me a sense of control that had been absent in public. As night fell, I returned to my mirror, brushing my hair slowly, deliberately. I applied a subtle shade of lipstick, practiced a soft smile, tested the tilt of my head. Each movement felt natural now, a blend of her body and my mind, a tentative harmony forming between the two. I had begun to understand something crucial. Survival didn't mean returning to who I had been. Survival meant learning to thrive in this new form, mastering the nuances, the rhythms, the secrets of her existence. I closed my eyes, leaning against the mirror, imagining the days ahead. The thought of returning to school, of facing friends and strangers in this body, was terrifying, but also exciting. I had a secret now, a knowledge, a skill that no one else possessed. I could navigate this borrowed life better than anyone expected. And while the world outside remained a battlefield of scrutiny, whispers, and judgment, I had found a sanctuary here, in private, where I could practice, experiment, and learn. By the time I finally went to bed, exhausted yet exhilarated, I understood the truth. My sister had taken my body, my world, and my identity, but she hadn't taken my mind. And as long as I could explore, adapt, and master this life in secret, I might not just survive, I might come to wield this unexpected power in ways I had never imagined.